Welcome, Dr. Kathryn Keeton, CEO of Minerva Work Solutions and Associate Director of Executive Education here at UTSA. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule today to talk to our online business students who are participating in a professional development program to prepare them for the internship and job world. So,
my pleasure.
Great. So can you talk to us for a few minutes about the overall importance of networking, and then we'll dive into some strategies for making every event a networking success.
Yes, absolutely. So, even preparing for these questions, I was trying to come from an angle of really understanding what your students would really value in terms of this advice around networking. And as an organizational psychologist, we tend to look at the process of obtaining or landing that first job from an evidence-based approach. And so what are the things that we know really help drive that? Well, we know experience drives that. We know that having a certain knowledge base in the area of expertise also drives that success. But we also know that this aspect of networking, networking can sometimes kind of come off as a cliche term. What do we mean by networking? But it really is, at least in my definition or understanding of this concept, is leveraging your social network and your professional network in such a way that it really helps propel your career forward. And in a lot of my classes, I really try to emphasize this. This is not about surface level type of relationships where you're just trying to meet as many people as you can to try to find some job. It's not about attending tons of career events, just trying to mingle and get to know those individuals. It's strategic. It is attending those events. It is trying to build relationships, but at a level where you're really connecting with those individuals and being able to showcase your abilities and strengths and skills in such a way that can make you as a candidate more likely to be remembered by that individual when it comes time to being able to try to find that job. And I think the last thing I'd say is I think a lot of this is very organic too. By leveraging that network, you never know that individual that you met might know 5 other people, which you might know this other person, that in the end, through all of those kind of connections, really helps you find the job that you wanted to. And by putting yourself out there, you are putting yourself in a position that at least allows those connections to be more likely to happen.
That's a really great way of thinking about it, because I know it's very intimidating for people who are new to the professional world and they're just not sure how to get started. So I know that you're a member of the American Psychology Association, mm-hmm. and a number of other events and groups that you work with, such as the San Antonio Area Foundation. So what kinds of organizations or groups do you think that our business students should be looking for?
It's a really great question, and I would answer that from a couple of different perspectives. I think from a professional perspective, one should always be looking to align themselves with the affiliate chapters that represents their technical area of expertise. So for me as a psychologist, it's a natural fit to me to be a part of the APA. And even if I'm not a clinical psychologist, I'm putting myself in a network where I'm much more likely to find other like-minded individuals that share a common body of knowledge and understanding and shared experience, which also puts me in a better position to find maybe some organizational psychology type of positions. So even as students today, a lot of, even for the APA, for example, they offer student affiliations. There's no reason that you need to wait until after you graduate to join or become members of these different societies and associations. Those students should be doing those absolutely right now. The second part of that answer would be, for me at least, is on the personal front. I think it's really important to, especially in your community, whether it's here in San Antonio or elsewhere, to be finding passions that you really care about and putting that to good use by volunteering, whether it's serving on a nonprofit board, whether it's just joining and becoming a member and serving as a volunteer for those organizations. I'd have to say, even in my own reflection, those connections have often created this networking and some of those opportunities more than even my student or professional affiliations have. And then that's a nice alignment between things that you care about outside of your professional space and aligning that in something meaningful and impactful with those organizations.
That's fantastic, because I think that especially when you're a student and you spend all of your time thinking about finance or cybersecurity, it's nice to know that those things outside of that realm is great. So it's not just limited to that professional networking opportunity.
Yep.
Everything seems to be connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then how once you're in the situation where you're surrounded by like-minded people, what strategies do you have for making those connections, and then beyond that, sustaining and building those connections?
Yeah. So I came up with just 3 off the cuff, and this kind of encapsulates a lot of what I use to share with my students as we're talking about this professional development, specifically to networking. So let's say I'm either going into a situation where I know I'm hopefully going to have the opportunity to network, or I'm attending some event. A lot of this takes planning. So before you ever get to that situation, you first need to set your purpose. So this is 1 of 3. So you set your purpose. Here I'm going to this event, I'm setting a goal for myself. Is my goal to try to meet 3 people? Or is it try to find somebody that's outside of my area of expertise? Or am I at a job fair and I actually really do want to try to find a couple of places that I can apply for specific jobs, or try to get as an interview, as an example. So set your purpose. And we know from the research that when we actually set a goal that's very specific, that follows those aspects of SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, etc., that we're more likely to achieve them. So putting the time ahead of time to consider setting that purpose is going to make it more likely that you're going to be pushing yourself to actually achieve. And that's important because when you get there, it's usually awkward, uncomfortable in those initial situations, which leads me to the second one, which is practice a pitch. For the majority of my students, and myself included, it's hard to get up and to tell somebody in 30 to 60 seconds what you do, why does it value or why does it matter, and what are you hoping to get from that other person. And so developing a pitch, even just practicing in the mirror, you need to be able to say what, again, tying it to that purpose, you need to be able to deliver or communicate that message in 60 seconds. My name is Kathryn Keeton, this is kind of my background, this is kind of what I'm passionate about, or this is what I was hoping to get out of this event, I'm so interested in you. Second part of that, number 2, is making sure that you finish with turning it to the other person.
That's great advice.
It's a conversation, so you don't want to just dump and then just wait for some kind of reaction.
Right.
I've told you all this information, why don't you think I'm amazing? So set your purpose, practice your pitch, make sure it focuses on the other individual at the end, and the last one is prepare or plan for a few icebreakers. So for me, especially in those situations, it's very uncomfortable just walk up to somebody and say the hello, my name is. So whatever that event is, just trying to come up with a couple of icebreakers that are comfortable for you so that you are willing to be able to go to somebody or a group of individuals or a few folks and just kind of communicate those icebreakers so you can at least start the conversation.
It's definitely easier with a plan.
Absolutely. Yes.
So those are great things that people should do. Is there anything they shouldn't do? And don't
yes. Yes. So I'm going to turn some of the things that I gave as advice and just to make sure to highlight them from the contrast perspective. So for that first one, make sure that you do turn it to that other side. So the don't would be, don't just talk about you. Make sure that's this inclusive conversation. Even when you are actually, there's an ask, there's a call to action that you're requesting on the other side, you need to make sure that it feels like a conversation and establishing, at least at the beginning, some kind of relationship with that person. So don't do that. And then my others are just pretty straightforward. Like, don't be obnoxious, just don't talk about you. When we practice even for interviews, there's really great advice where it shouldn't be more than 60-60. If you're gonna talk for 60 seconds, allowing the individual to talk, make sure that each time you have an answer, you're not going on for more than a minute or 2. As actually now I need to be aware of myself right now. that information, if you can't tell your story or get to your point in less than a minute, that goes back to that practice, and you probably need to be practicing more than just your pitch.
That's great.
So it's not just about you. Don't be obnoxious. And then I think just general rules of courtesy and respectfulness go a long way, especially after that initial conversation. So whereas we tell a lot of people, after you've made those initial contacts, you need to be emailing those individuals. You need to be following up.
Right.
Well, when people do things for you, make sure you say thank you. Make sure you follow up. Make sure you close that communication each time. And then be respectful with your asks. If you've just met a person, it's not appropriate to ask them to introduce you to X, Y, or Z, but maybe it's okay for you to ask for a follow-on conversation, have a coffee. Can I buy you coffee? And we could talk a little bit more about X, Y, or Z. So allow the relationship to develop over time.
Right. You've got to have the connection before you ask the favor.
Exactly.
Great. That is great advice. So can you share how networking has helped in your professional career?
Yes, I was thinking about this question too. I would have to say every single job that I've had, has been influenced by some kind of networking connection or relationship. And I was even doing a little bit of research just to even get some numbers. So LinkedIn posted a report a couple of years ago, and they estimated that over 85% of jobs filled are through networking.
85, that's high.
That's a lot of people. So when you ask for me, so my first research assistantship at UT in Austin, that was somebody recommending me and introducing me to the individual that was actually running that research lab. And that was my introduction into organizational psychology. I was able to go to graduate school because of reference letters for individuals that were a part of that network. So they were vouching for me to be able to get into that graduate school program. When I was actually there at the University of Houston, the internships that I got were because I was tapping into this network. And it continues. My job experience at NASA and then coming here, trying to get a job here at UTSA, all of those required me to reach out to a network of individuals and develop relationships with them. And then when the time came or there were opportunities that I saw, requesting those asks, would you mind introducing me to X, Y, or Z? Or I see that this might be an opportunity later down the road, would you keep me in mind for that? So I would say every single job that I've had has integrated some aspect of networking.
Wow, it's a really great testament to the power of it. And so appreciate you sharing your insights. I think it's particularly fascinating that you come at it from both a business perspective and a research and psychology perspective, because we hear a lot about it, but it's so valuable to see the power and the facts behind it. So
yeah, absolutely. And to that point, the last thing I'd like to say, with everything going on right now, especially right now with diversity and inclusion, for example, if we are to address the unequal or the inequality that we see in terms of this playing field for individuals in getting a job, that even if you have the job skills and knowledge, that you feel like you have the experience, you feel like you have this expertise, that you're still not able to get that leg in, that foot in the door, it's a testament to be able to motivate an individual, hopefully, to try to leverage that network, because that is a way that we can try to overcome some of those differences that we've seen. And the data does speak for itself. It's a vital component of any selection process. So individuals would best keep that in mind and utilize it to their advantage.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely.
And your experience and your expertise really is going to be of a lot of benefit for not only our students, but I know that I've learned something today. So thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next event.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jen.